I hope you're ready for some ill logic. Last time we went over our Week 2 match against John and the Close Combat Club. Please go check out that video first if you've not done so already, as we went over the Teambuilder battle and post-match analysis that went quite in depth because, spoiler alert, we took a 1-0 loss after some hacks, more misplays, and a Scarf Archeops that flew right over my head. That puts us down to 1-1. We've got our work cut out for us as we take on the 2-0 plus 9 Akron Aggrons, coached by Joey this week. Timestamps for the Teambuilder and battle are in the description. Right in the thick of a rough stretch of the schedule, Joey's currently the #1 team in the league after impressive wins last week against the Zigzagoons, and more importantly, a 6-0 win over the Close Combat Club that we just fell to last week. That's a nice track record, and even extends into last season's Monotype League, where he lost just one Pokemon in his first 7 gym challenges until my gym brought down 3 of them. Joey finished a semi-finalist that season and is starting to show his real skill, at least in the regular season, though the Buffalon have not dropped to him since Season 2. We need to get back on track. Joey needs to stay up top, so this ought to be a good match. His team features first-round pick Tornadus-Therian, Mienshao, Kyurem, Arcanine, Stoutland, Seismitoad, Luxray, Sylveon, Eldegoss, Spiritomb, Copperajah. Very nice balance, 3 Regenerator Mons and 2 Intimidators, which Sylveon, as well as the good overall natural bulk, can make for a difficult team to offensively deal with. Torn, Mienshao, and Kyurem form a ridiculous offensive power, and the utility offensively and defensively from Mons like Arcanine, Seismitoad, and Sylveon synergize so nicely. So there are a couple of weak points, I think, and we'll do our best to exploit his team. First off, that Eldegoss stands out as a rough matchup for him. It admittedly has the ability to wall things like Zero Aura and Latias to an extent, but fails to do anything against things like Bulu, Cobalion, Flareon, and anything I want to slap substitute on. So that one similarly fails, as the bulkiness it can supply back to Intimidate is nice, but doesn't stop my switching game and my heavy special offense I plan to bring. If it does come, I'll probably expect Scarf to outspeed Zero Aura, but even then Arctivish can still outspeed that. Copperajah is probably my favorite mod design-wise from the new gen and provides stupid good power and coverage, but that's about it. It's slower than my whole team, and his Trick Room options aren't great, not to mention the stupid good super effective and neutral coverage I can provide against the Elephant. I'll trade positive with it any day of the week. Luxray and Spiritomb probably have a good shot to come, but I'll round out the benchwarmers with them. A bulky, physically defensive Luxray with Intimidate could very well be the way to go in walling my Zero Aura with Rocky Helmet punching many of my physical attackers, such as Cobalion, but it really doesn't do much aside from that. Finally, Spiritomb is his fighting and psychic immunity with a relatively spammable Poltergeist, but stats still leave too much to be desired. I too kill even bulky Spiritombs with just about every mon on my team, where he has a tough time doing the same back. I'm not too terribly worried about it, even if I don't decide to bring the 100% counter in Guts Obstagoon. Especially when he can bring Sylveon against me, something I'm much less worried about defensively as much as offensively. Yes, Swish is annoying, but I can 2-hit KO often or set up against it, as you'll see in a bit, but Hyper Voice doesn't have the sturdiest resists on my side. My Steel type is neutral to Hyper Voice, Neoking isn't exactly the bulkiest, and Flareon isn't exactly the best, making something like Specs Pixelite moves very scary. Arcanine is a beast, and with the right combination of defenses and offenses, can both tank hits like a champ and threaten right back. This is another good helmet candidate. I'm most worried about taking a negative trade with this Flare Blitz or speedier Arcanine that I'm unprepared for. The top 4 I think are the guaranteed brings. The Seismitoad is a classic Zero Aura check and Rock Setter. Rendo Barrier or not, I expect Toad to be the answer to Zero Aura every single time, as well as a Water Absorb Mana check Arctivish. They'll have plenty of coverage for the Frog. Reliable Rocks, reliable check. This thing is coming. Tornadus-Therian is worthy of a first-round pick, and if I think Eldegoss isn't coming, this is its hazard removal, and the only mon removed from the ground. Pivoting, Regenerator, Knockoff, Hurricane, Bulk, Power, this is a monster that can do just about anything Joey wants it to. Mienshao is a big offensive threat, as my mons that resist fighting are weak to Knockoff, Poison Jab, or our Cramorant. A simple CC, Knock, Poison Jab, U-turn set with either Life Orb, Assault Vest, or maybe even Scarf are nearly impossible to handle, and it'll require me to trap him into a misplay to get rid of. Finally, Kyurem. Ice Dragon is great coverage. Add an Earth Power and Focus Blast, and there are simply no walls to it. Modest Specs, Modest Scarf, Sub-Roost with, by the way, ridiculous bulk even uninvested. Kyurem has tons of way to beat me. Not looking forward to having to deal with that. On my side, Tapu Bulu must ride the bench again. I mentioned earlier that Tornadus is the only mon off the ground, meaning all of his other mons benefit from Grassy Terrain. Seismitoad doesn't need to use EQ, and Kyurem also uses Earth Power, so there's no real benefit in slowing him down there either. Not enough reason to use Bulu, who also gets stopped by Tornadus and Arcanine, and offensively handled by both of those, plus Kyurem and Poison Jab Mienshao. Rotom struggles too, faced with what could be a special Toad, knockoff from the faster Tornadus and Mienshao, and walled by Sylveon, who can also carry Heal Bell to stop Hex shenanigans. Cramorant will continue to wait for its debut, being unable to withstand Kyurem's Freeze Dry, Sylveon's Hyper Voice, Luxray's Electric Coverage, Arcanine's Wild Charge, Tornadus' Taunt. I wanted to make it work. Maybe it's a check to Mienshao with Helmet, but Regenerator ensures that damage doesn't stick. Obstagoon won't be returning this week due to the faster threats Mienshao and Tornadus almost assuredly coming and carrying easy coverage for it, in addition to the Intimidate and Helmet threats and Sylveon staring me down. Finally, Flareon can thaw out on the bench. It's actually a pretty cool special wall that can handle things like Sylveon and even Kyurem decently well, but threats like Mean Shao and Seismitoad constantly discourage anything I'm trying to do. We saw what happened last week when we tried to tank up on incoming ice moves. Yikes. That means we're back with almost the same team as week 1, with Latias in over Bulu. Yes, the Hail Core is back, with a Scarf Vanillix as the setter. This gives me speed for max speed Torn T, so I'll only be outsped by his Scarfs, of which I anticipate at least one. Blizzard and resists include Arcanine, who is hit by a Water Pulse, and Cabaraja, who I'm not anticipating to come, though if he does, I don't mind just setting up screens. Freeze Dry hits Toads 4 times super effectively, and Vanillix as a whole, of course, is here to set up the other Freeze Dry user in Arctifish, rocking a cool substitute set to take advantage of the anticipated Toad switch or others. Sub up on, say, Wishing Sylveon, and watch Fish's Rend to go to work. Super Fang is probably the best thing I can do to Kyurem, who otherwise is the Rend resist once Toad goes down, and we have speed for Modest Scarf Kyurem just in case we can go Rocks into Super Fang into Vicious for the KO. I need to watch out for the Scarfs, yes, but Arctifish can put in a lot of work otherwise. Since I don't anticipate these two to get all 6 KOs again, we may as well talk about those Rocks. And my other physical attacker this week is Cobalion, who has a set sending some mixed messages, I'm sure, with speed for Mean Shao and attack investment to Oko Mean Shao +2 with Iron Head. Stealth Rock should probably be a priority this week, forcing Torn to defog and otherwise chipping it, Kyurem, and Arcanine super effectively until they're removed. If they're here to stay or I can find a chance to apply pressure, however, close combat and Iron Head stabs can get boosted to infinity and beyond with Swords Dance. I think I'll have a tough time clicking SD until I find those Scarfs on Mean Shao and or Kyurem, but if they are, I won't have an issue spamming close combat on them this time compared to last game. Now you're probably wondering what I'm doing with Zero Aura if I said Cobalion was the other physical attacker. I'm glad you asked, as we've got a fully special Assault Vest Zero Aura with a modest nature and speed for Torn T. With this I can tank Kyurem and Sylveon hits pretty easily and fire back with a Volt Switch most likely for momentum, though T-Bolt shreds and R-Sphere and Grass are cool coverage options to hit Kyurem and Toad respectively. You'd be surprised how hard this set hits just by making it modest. Even though I'd love to get that extra bulk in there, I need the offensive investment for the power. My Pivoter Zero Aura hits hard and should lure in some threats I can snack on. Take this Nidoking, for example, who would love to be swapped in for free against, say, Sylveon. Sub 3 attacks, I could run the same set every week and be happy, honestly. Earth Power is only resisted by Eldegoss and Torn T, which Sludge Wave handles one alongside Sylveon, and being overall good neutral coverage with Ice Beam to hit the Tornadus. So, Torn and Eldegoss being his only removal, it would have been pretty nice to try to find T-Spikes maybe on this set as well, considering, once again, 10 of his 11 Mons are grounded, and only Cabaraja would be immune, but things like Eldegoss could run Boots. It's just a little bit too much. I really like having these 3 coverage moves in particular. Would love to get some nice chip on and things from this. Modest gives amazing damage output. I've got some little bit of speed here. It's just for 8 EV Arcanine in case he brings it as a defensive threat, with a bunch in special defense, which probably seems odd, but I'm a good HP number already to minimize hail damage. I'm not anticipating the sub holding out against anything in particular, so why not just keep myself healthier against Hyper Void, which I do resist and will break the sub. So, you know I had to save the best set for last. Let's take a look at the Latias set, which features a weakness policy and stored power alongside Calm Mind and Roost for power and longevity, and also possibly Strange Draco Meter to go with it. Aside from Joey being notorious for getting swept, the theme I saw with his team is how his special threats are the biggest and baddest, meaning I could probably get away with things like AV on Zero Aura, Spit Off investment on Nidoking, and Calm Mind Boost on Latias, take me to heights where I can successfully trade with literally anything he's got. At +2, even Specs Hyper Voice is only doing half, and then stored power can take it out. Knockoff from Torn does a fair chunk, a whole lot more from Mean Shao, but if it means I get to claim KO with stored power, that's a fine trade by me. Even better if they U-turned me for half instead to proc it, and I get to Roost back up without an item to boost Nox power. Even Kyurem struggles after a single Calm Mind, requiring Specs to KO me, whereas I could simply Draco right away and KO him instead. That's part of why Draco is here, claiming KOs before weakness policy can be activated, but it's also here for after that too. Say Scarf Kyurem is in and at +2 from a Draco, or rather -2 from a Draco, and I've already used the weakness policy on Latias. I can bring it back in because I can get a Calm Mind up. If Sylveon is down +1, Draco should be naming me a KO basically every time in the late game, and I'd love to see the surprise of this 4th move add on and work. Just avoid Toxic and T-Wave, and this set should be able to put in all the work. Overall, I think I'm most worried about surprise Scarfs. The Archeops last time was unexpected for some reason, and I'm mostly anticipating Mean Shao and Kyurem to be those threats. Otherwise, Toad needs to go early, all the better if I can prevent rocks or set up a bet on it, because it helps facilitate Vicious Rend and Volt Switch spam, both of which wear away Kyurem over time and break down things like Torn rather handily too. With the main threats established and our plan of attack fixed, let's head into the battle. Ooh, no Mean Shao, that takes a load off my plate. And no Seismitoad, what? That's so good. The move spamming can commence, and no fighting coverage from Mean Shao makes me a lot happier too. Instead we see Eldegoss, meaning I may have to sack something to sleep because of no Bulu, and I'll have to be aware of Rapid Spin, and Cabaraja, which I don't really have a switch into, but should be able to two-shot with just about everything. Vanillix is a solid lead with Scarf if I'm anticipating Tornadus, so let's hop in. Good luck to Joey. Caparaja. Well, that makes sense. Could just rocks up or hit me with steel coverage. I don't want to give him free damage either. Well, we can reduce that damage with Veil and let something else swap in safely. Let's try that. Scarf Aurora Veil halves the damage from high horsepower down to 23%. Not bad, not bad. And we're going to see the leftovers on it too, so no AV or Life Orb from it. All great info. Now is the time to head into Arctifish, as it would take a mighty prediction of there to Power Whip this turn. And otherwise, we can get in safely due to the rocks, which will be a problem later, but we can get pressure on him to defog or rapid spin later with our own rocks. And I've already got Hail up and Arctifish in without taking those hazard damages, so pretty great for us. Now here's the problem. Arctifish doesn't actually Oko Caparaja, especially if, like I suspect, it has max HP. He has a couple switch-ins that resist Fishes despite leaving behind Seismitoad and Eldegoss and Kyurem. Now, especially without Toad, I never really click sub because it's so much more important to just get this damage out right here now. In this case, I think I have a move that serves as a perfect compromise piece in Super Fang, as that should chunk what's in front of me down to Fishes range, chunk the Kyurem down permanently unless he's a roof set, which is way less scary, or chunk the Eldegoss into switching range. So let's find out what might happen here. It's actually going to be our best case scenario in Kyurem. Perfect. Get that down to half. You love to see that. Maybe this was a switch because it doesn't take Hail Chip. Not bad if true. Fishes is... It's actually still not the click here. I'm going for Super Fang again for multiple reasons. One, it's the best move to chip if he switches, for sure. It's getting basically 100% between two different mons is amazing. If he stays in, Fishes range still doesn't KO from this range thanks to resist, only doing about 30 to 35 of HP invested, so Super Fang still brings it within range. Finally, if he's Scarf and I don't outspeed, Fishes range is doing even less than that, meaning Super Fang will do more. Remember what I said at the outset, I need to find the Scarfs. This is about the last reasonable candidate for a Scarf, so let's see. Not Scarf, interesting. We'll bring that to about a quarter, and Focus Blast hits return does almost 3/4 itself, bringing me to just over substitute range. Wow, that's through Aurora Veil. Definitely specs, and he may know that I know that now too. Well, one more turn of Hail. Let's just click Fishes now, shall we? It ought to KO from this range, and if he switches, it's going to blast something. Oh no, switch into Arcanine. Oh no, Intimidate. Does it live? Who do you think we're talking about? Of course Arctifish will take it out. KO number 1 for the fish, number 5 on the season overall, and take care of Arcanine in one hit. Outstanding work from Arctifish. I'd say this was a very successful 5 turns of Hail, thanks mostly to that last turn, but even then trading 3/4 of Kyurem's health for 2/3 of Arctifish's and rocks, probably still a good trade for me already. Arctifish bringing it to a whole nother level. So we need to make sure he outspeeds me, and that is going to be in the form of Torn. That makes sense. Let's start moving around a little bit then. I really only fear Focus Blast with my switch into Cobalion, who, after it takes a rock damage, as well as U-turn, can still recover right back to full with leftovers, but is now staring down Eldegoss. Well, I don't suppose I can get a rocks right now, huh? Especially if I still want it to outspeed with everything I've got. Well, remember how I may have to sack something to sleep? With Kyurem not being Scarfed and no Mean Shao at all, the Vanillix seems like a pretty good idea. I could still have to set up the Hail even while asleep, and the Scarf is really only letting me outspeed Torn T in the 26% Kyurem right now, so I don't really feel bad about letting it take a nap. And we get a whole nother turn with it after he clicks Leech Seed instead. So I'm going to hope that this turn he still wants to put something to sleep and just go for it. Blizzard does nice damage, and I do end up taking a nap. I could still come in one more time later on rocks too if I switch out, so we're going to take advantage of Eldegoss. Well, I'm a little weary about Stun Spore or Leech Seed, so probably not Latias. Zero Aura can't hurt Eldegoss too hard with the set I've got. Arctifish, same thing. That's going to leave Nidoking or Cobalion, and I'm going to go Cobalion to keep Nidoking healthier for later as a substitute potentially, whereas Cobalion, whatever it does at this point, is just extra credit. And both swaps would have worked as he goes right into Sylveon. We can take advantage of this, I think. Let Swords dance up as he wishes. This is interesting, though, too, as I can now Oko the Sylveon with Iron Head, but he may not be looking to stay in. So thanks to that, the ability to heal something up, but what's he going into? Eldegoss a bit hurt. Kyurem, but it won't survive an Iron Head. No way, no how. Unless he pulls off a bunch of doubles after that, I shouldn't really be punished for rocks on the swap into Torn T, which was full health already. Perfect play, perfect. That's the kind of play I need to be making more often. I knew he couldn't afford to go back into Curum or anything like that. Now we force him to defog the rocks away, or try to get an Eldegoss more riskily when we already have him on a sleep. Awesome, great position, even if I am now threatened by the Torn in front of me. Well, am I really? I don't have that many switches into something like Hurricane. Latias would like to get in a little more freely. Zero Aura looks really good too. I'll just stay and click Iron Head. It should get good damage off, and Hurricane doesn't even Oko, so we'll see a little bit more about his set. Tailwind. That, I guess, would be why he doesn't have a Scarfer, but he doesn't have too many turns to take advantage of that, as Iron Head Torn down to about 40%. Well, I guess I may as well Iron Head again to try to KO his fastest member if he doesn't swap. U-turn. Maybe he doesn't have a way to deal with me. Well, we'll get another incredible plus, as Eldegoss is sacked. Copalian's first KO in his third match. That's going to draw in, of course, Curum, who is definitely EV'd correctly after taking 50%, 25%, and now 25% again, but still hangs on. But it is now boosted with Tailwind. That last little bit of HP is actually scary now. We've seen Focus Blast, Earth Power scary. Don't think he'd Ice Beam or Draco Meteor. Actually, if that's the case, why not Latias? If it's going to resist the moves that can come in, especially if we can expertly dodge the incoming Focus Blast and then Calm Mind up. Well, actually, we take decent chip from that next Focus Blast. I think that Torn might be lacking Defog, so I don't mind forcing Curum to swap out, as it will go down next switch in. Let's just get healthy in case he goes for something cheeky, and he's going to go into the Copperajah. Well, after Weakness Policy boost, I'll not be anywhere close. Yeah, this is probably the only thing I accounted for when crafting this set, so it's a good thing I roosted earlier to get me in position to try again later. For now, I don't have the best switch in, but I think Cobalion looks to be the safest switch for now, as he goes for Play Rough of all things, actually, and gets the attack drop. Very nice coverage. Didn't know we got that, really. We can Sword Stance up, though, to get the attack boost back, and he's going to high horsepower. That starts getting me a little too low for comfort. The next play is probably obvious for him, but I didn't have much of a choice if I wanted to keep the 6-0 Dream alive, and he's going to sack Curum to rocks. That's another KO for Cobalion, though. Now with 2 Slowmons and Tornadus left, of course the ladder will come in. I'm still scared of Hurricane, and if there's a misplay, this might be it. I swap out Cobalion knowing I didn't KO with Iron Head at +1, into Zero Aura to take a potential Hurricane. I was right, though. We did have Hurricane the whole time, but he misses. Whew. So we take those. It probably wouldn't matter too much because of the Assault Vest, but that's alright. So he hadn't Hurricaned the whole time. Probably didn't care too much about the chip on Cobalion, but now that he saw a chance to take it out, he jumped on it. Okay, fair enough. I'm just going to T-Bolt to get big damage onto anything. Sylveon is the correct play, though I thought he may have been a little bit more worried about a potential Plasma Fist hitting on the physical side. That's fine, though. Sylveon ate that up pretty well, but I've got momentum going for me here, as I can just Volt Switch out right into my Nidoking, who in turn will eat up the incoming Hyper Voice. We're going to joke around here just a little bit, Sludge Waving into Sylveon on the Protect, before subbing up on the next turn on the Tornadus switch. I was hoping that would bait him into thinking I was choice locked and he would go Copperajah, but it was not meant to be. We'll take this trade either way, bring the newly healthy Tornadus all the way down, very low, in exchange for my substitute, to 8% thanks to Ice Beam. Very nice, as he breaks our sub. Not sure about surviving a Hurricane, though, so Zero Aura it is. Though he reads that very well, goes for your turn to get back in the Copperajah. My team's actually starting to get a little bit chipped. I would love to nab the 6-0, but at this point, I don't think I can switch safely into Copperajah. Maybe Latias if Play Rough misses before it crits. Whatever. I'll just sack off the Vanillix to give our KO leader some more fun. Yeah, look at his team right now, and look at Arctivish with 4 turns of Hail. Yep, we're about to have some fun. We're still hanging on after the rocks. Leftovers or boots. Don't think the item particularly mattered for this particular case. So Tornadus is going to be the first to go down, and then into Sylveon he goes. And then after a turn of course, Protect, he decides it's probably just over. He's going to just sack off the Sylveon next, and Copperajah will follow afterwards thanks to the Volt Switch chip from earlier. And that's going to secure us a 5-0 victory for the Buffalo Boufflant here in Week 3. GG to Joey, the Aggrons just cannot seem to find my numbers. We get another big win against him and prevent a 2-game losing streak. The most recent one being my first bout in the 8-Bit Drafts OU League 4+ regular draft seasons ago. That is an awesome sign that we can bounce back like that, but it doesn't get any easier in the future. For now, let's reflect on what went right here, especially compared to last game. For Joey, Torn didn't really have much offense aside from Hurricane. Tailwind is cute, but I've never been a fan of it in singles, especially when you need to switch around so much to take advantage of it and leave yourself wide open. Kyurem is scary, but with specs, I outsped it with Zero Aura, Cobalion, Latias, Arctifish, and Hail. Not sure if it was the right call. Locking yourself in is risky, and you should at least outspeed him if you're going to do so. I know Tailwind plus this looks terrifying on paper and was probably the idea, but in practice it's tough to get a Kyurem, and we saw that with Chip from Super Fang and Rocks, among others, but also concerning things like Volt Switch Zero Aura, or that Iron Heading Cobalion. Sylveon was tanky and got a Wish off, but didn't end up doing anything with it thanks to my read of Tornadus coming in. Very happy about that one. Don't know what its last move was, but it was starting to look a bit like setup fodder for my Latias. Wish I could have seen or done that. Arcanine dropped. Very satisfying that I didn't even get to see what it was supposed to do because Arctifish KO'd it, even at -1 attack. I could probably have assumed it would use Wild Charge or Flare Blitz there, or maybe even Morning Sun up when the hail was gone, but we'll never know. Chop Barrage was actually pretty threatening, bulkier than expected, and coverage like Player Off was pretty unexpected but effective. Finally, Eldegoss was a bit annoying, but I think it was handled pretty effectively. I didn't really get to check Arctifish, or it didn't get rather to check Arctifish or Zero Aura, like it was probably intended to, thanks to the big damage from Vanillix and Cobalion. On my side, Zero Aura was somewhat effective. Volt Switch is always nice for pivoting, in this case out of slower threats like Sylveon and Caparage that allowed him to get in Cobalion and Arctifish to put on tons of pressure. Latias was much more so designed with Mienshao in mind and not Eldegoss or Caparage, so we didn't get to redeem Latias quite yet. Nidoking didn't get to do too much either, but that Ice Beam on Torn was great to bring it into Fish's range at least, and it tanked Hyper Voice with ease. Cobalion was incredibly effective getting up those rocks, tanking hits with incredible ease combined with leftovers and its resistances, and applying super good pressure with its stabs, especially with Arcanine down on Toad and Mienshao on the benches. Where Latias fell with the unexpected brings, Cobalion shined. Vanillix was great again, setting up Hail 3 times yet again to facilitate the Vish, but also bringing Eldegoss into Iron Head range and taking the Sleep Powder. But the real star yet again was Arctifish. With 4 more KOs, you get up to 8-0 in 2 appearances. Far and away the KO leader of the league over the Bulldor's 6 KO and 5 KO bonds. And Arctifish did a collective 310% damage to my opponent of possible 600%. Easy cleanup in the end game that didn't allow Sylveon a moment to wish up or Torn a chance to regenerator up. Truly the GOAT. No, Cobalion had an amazing showing as well. That'll wrap it up this time. Our record now stands at 2-1 with a +8 differential, which I guess rides entirely on the back of Arctifish. Next time it doesn't get any easier because we have to contend with Chad and his Seattle Steamrollers, another undefeated team who we beat in the Season 6 finals but lost to in Season 7 as he went on to win his first championship. He's on track to nab the second best ELO in the league, but we have to make sure he doesn't take away our #1 spot here in Week 4. See ya!